When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comedy channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about Seasmoke and Addam of Hull in episode 6. So I actually have a lot of questions about the actual execution of what actually ended up happening. And I want to kind of like decode what ended up happening. So in episode 6, we see Seasmoke does not take Sir Stefan Darklyn, but instead takes Addam of Hull. Why might that be? Because it was done in such an interesting way, right? Because, Seasmoke is at Dragonstone. They try to lure him out, and we see, Sir Darklyn. It seems like almost he gets to be the Dragon Rider. But all of a sudden, it seems like maybe either Seasmoke was baiting him in or changed its mind at the last second. So what occurred there? Does that have any relation to possibly Laenor and or Addam maybe being related to Laenor? It kind of seems like it's almost been confirmed in the show that they are Corlys's, kids, so they do have relation and blood with Laenor. Is that a factor? So before we go further into this analysis of episode 6 in terms of that plot line, if you did want to become a Patreon or a member, you do get videos early, and I do an extra video every week for the people that are on there. So thank you for the support from those people. And let's get into it. So this is kind of my theory on the idea of why Seasmoke goes to specifically Addam. It almost like is choosing the writer, something that we haven't really seen at all in terms of even House of the Dragon or in terms of like Game of Thrones, because the closest we have to maybe that idea is like Aemond and Vhagar. But even in that situation, it seems like a mutual thing where Aemond was trying to claim Vhagar, and Vhagar also allowed Aemond to claim him. So in that regard, it seemed almost mutual. But based upon this episode, it would almost seem like, no, the dragon's the one that chooses the writer. Similar to like Harry Potter, where like the wand chooses the person, it seems. So in that regard, I want to take a look at some things. The last known writer that Seasmoke had was Laenor, and Laenor has been missing for quite a while. We don't know if Laenor is dead. We don't know if he's just, away, so that breaks the connection with, his dragon. We just don't know, right? There's a lot of things that are left very unclear, and I'm assuming they're going to be answered in the next episode or maybe the following episodes, because it's going to deal with a lot more dragon claiming ideas. But I think it's interesting because we also go back to the conversation with like Viserys and Rhaenyra about, we don't control the dragons type thing. And you even see that in terms of like Luke's death in season 1. I am thinking the idea is, if I'm like reading into the episode correctly the way I see it, I think a part of it is that Seasmoke is wanting to go back to kind of his home. His home is like Driftmark, more or less, and High Tide, that area, right? And so when you think about that, you think about where, Seasmoke hung around a lot with Laenor and all that stuff, you could also see that Seasmoke could sense maybe someone else's blood like Laenor's. Addam, like I've talked about, if the father is Corlys, they would share blood. And even in Fire and Blood, there's actually a rumor that it's either Alan and Addam are Corlys's kids or they're Laenor's. I am someone that I don't think it makes sense for Laenor to be their father, but still, it is interesting given the idea like that Seasmoke specifically chose Addam. One, because I think that the tie to Laenor, missing Laenor, Rhaenyra specifically says that in the episode that Seasmoke seems to be like missing their rider, right, in Laenor. And Rhaenyra subconsciously also knows that Seasmoke, still has a connection to probably Laenor. So I do find that to be very interesting. Like Rhaenyra goes for the dragon that she knows has been ridden, the most recently of most of the dragons, and that also is very tied to accepting riders. It'd be one of the dragons that'd be most susceptible to, taking a rider. And so when you think about it, I think it just comes down to a situation where Seasmoke did want a rider, and it chose the one that it seemed to fit the most, right? As Addam, that was someone that was kind of similar to Laenor. Laenor was someone very courageous. He was someone that was looking to prove himself. That's something we don't see a lot of in the Stepstones, but it is the case. Like, there are some similarities you can draw between Addam and Laenor. Now, of course, like certain things you can't, but they are quite similar in a lot of ways. And so I think that's why that ends up happening. And so when we see in the future with more Dragon Seed stuff, We even see, the setup for like Reyna. It seems like she's going to get Sheep Stealer, a dragon in Fire and Blood that ended up going to a character like Nettles. It seems like, Sheep Stealer and Reyna, in a lot of ways, are going to have a lot of similarities, right? If you think about Reyna and Sheep Stealer is this dragon that seems to be the lone dragon not at Dragonstone or King's Landing. And so it feels kind of like the outcast, right? It's supposedly a wild dragon, right? It's never had a rider before. And Reyna is someone that is also an outcast. She's been denied any attempts, or when she has done attempts of trying the dragons, they haven't taken her. And so Reyna and Sheep Stealer are connected in a lot of ways. And so I think the dragon tries to find a person that they think that A, has some sort of Targaryen blood that has a connection to them, because we have kind of got this idea that the Targaryens and their blood is tied to the dragons, right? And that's why they have some of that connection, right? When you see, for instance, Caraxes and Daemon, they seem to also always share kind of their emotions because they're very connected. Meleys and Rhaenys seem to have that connection as well. Even Aegon and Sunfire. So in that regard, I think the thing you got to look for going forward is the dragon is going to take someone similar to their personality style. Vhagar and Aemond, right? Very similar, personality types. If you even look at who Vhagar, took as a rider throughout its entire history, they all kind of have a lot of the same personality traits of being very dominant, and maybe even cruel personalities at times. You think about Visenya, you think about Maegor, you think about Aemond. It's interesting. But then you throw in a wrench there, and you have Laena. Laena was never those things. Laena was someone that, yes, was a powerful woman figure, someone that was similar to maybe Visenya, but wasn't maybe, I don't think, as like extreme as someone like Visenya. So it's interesting, right? Because I think you have to have the connection. It's not going to be a perfect one-to-one, but I do think you have to have that. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting because as of right now, I think the idea is that the dragons take someone they believe that has the will to actually, ride them, and also someone that they connect to personally. And so that is kind of my idea on what they were going for with Seasmoke, with Addam in this episode. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. It's been made very unclear. There's not been a lot of explanation given to how the dragon and Targaryen relationship works in terms of actually claiming a dragon. But we'll just have to see, wait for the next, 2 episodes for the, season to conclude, and maybe we'll have some more answers. But thank you guys all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.